Karma Soon's analysis of Meghans' fake pregnancy punching Harry brings the real world down. This is certainly an incredibly important topic for those involved due to the medical confidentiality laws that Meghan and Harry really relied on to protect them in the scam that suffered. King Charles had a pretty tough few years due to the loss of his parents and his horrible son, destroying his family and his wife. I will always believe that there is concrete evidence of the veracity of the births of Harry's two alleged children. Given that she was born in the US, that might be harder to prove, especially since she took 6 months of maternity leave. I suspect their lives will come out though, but maybe not as fast as all. Now I'm not a dumb person and have a hard time taking the lead. They would sit across from Oprah in front of an international television. The sighing audience pretends to be pregnant with a fake baby bomb that hides inside what is believed to be a $4,000 maternity dress, in the simple deception of Meghan's alleged pregnancies and making fun of them and using those pregnancies as excuses. To be honest about Meghan, not being able to conceive was definitely the best way they should have done. But using a surrogate, children born to another person who is not real. Naturally, they would not be entitled to be in the line of succession. I've often been curious how they could have 2 red-headed children when those traits are worn on a recessive set of genes. Unless Meghan miraculously wears those genes too, that would be impossible, and if she did, there's still only a 50-50 top chance of each cap. Red hair. Perhaps Meghan was so excited to have children who seemed unmistakably part of the royal lineage that they used another woman's egg along with Harry's sperm. Now, that would be in line with Meghan's overreaction to people wondering what Archie would look like, as well as keeping the kids hidden from anyone who can perform a DNA test. Sad though that she decided to identify as black or biracial or whatever. After conceiving Archie, she planned a fitting fit with royalty instead of one that would support her newfound truth. So I guess he thought it best to hide those kids forever. I suspect the royal family didn't know at first that they wanted to use surrogate mothers. And then, once the super injunction went into effect, the royal family got caught up in their lies, and I believe there is a loophole that will allow the royal family to expose those lies. In the end, some people may be curious as to why wait for the right time. We must remember, however, that the royal family lost both Prince Philip and their beloved queen in a very short time. Why should they be subject to the difficulties that will arise in the last years of their lives? Once Meghan knows she's about to be publicly exposed, you know her narcissistic personality will explode. I'm just glad the late Queen doesn't have to endure what's to come, and I'm also grateful that the King has Queen Camilla by his side to support him and the rest of the royal family. They are united. Many people, including Meghan, underestimate the King. They mistakenly see his empathy and kindness as a weakness, which I think is a big mistake. In fact, I think these characteristics indicate strength and courage in King Charles. The royal family will emerge from this mess tired and united. But Meghan and Harry will lose their titles, they will lose everything, they will just get old. Harry and Meghan. There are Dutch titles to hang their hats on, just like an invisible artificial won't be called prince and princess. What will happen to Harry's children remains a mystery once they are exposed and their titles removed. The kids won't be precious to Meghan anymore, so who knows what you'll do. It probably boils down to the issue of titles and line of succession and the use of a surrogate, all speculation, but that may be the issue that set the duo on fire in the first place. The truth may be that they couldn't get around the rules, so they fled to the United States because they were trying to avoid what would certainly have been intense media scrutiny around the use of substitutes. The way I understand it, surrogacy laws in the United States are much more lenient than in other countries, and when we add the monarchy into the mix, it becomes much more complicated. Indeed, Du and Harry are very selective about how much privacy they want and what information they want to release to the media. The thing I keep coming back to is that they chose to go on the Oprah show as a pregnant couple, so they made it clear, at least to me, that at least one of their children was presumably born from Meghan's body. At the same time, I suspect Meghan and Harry are finally realizing how much damage they've caused everyone with all their shenanigans. It was like an explosion, and then they thought they would be immediately forgiven. And with all these demands like they're the ones doing the wrong, Like somehow the royal family deserves all the bullshit that Meghan and Harry put them and people around the world through who respect the monarchy. Harry and Meghan do not deserve to be forgiven. They deserve to face the consequences of their actions, and I think they will have to do a lot more after the coronation. I suspect the king hopes to eventually undo the damage done by Harry if and when these two finally get a divorce. Until that happens, we all know Meghan will have an ultimate mind and financial scam. And tragically, I guess that includes the kids they may or may not have. King Charles must do something to stop all this nonsense. He must establish real ground rules with them. You can't see him fidgeting and squirming when it comes to the two of them. It must be difficult. I understand when it's your child, but ultimately these adults need to move on and make good decisions for the good of everyone in the British monarchy and the people who are part of it and support it, or I'm afraid it will collapse. Another thing is that you cannot expect to become king and live a quiet life. Maybe it's still something he'd ideally like, but still considering the publicity the British royal family intentionally generates, they should expect the scrutiny that this publicity generates. Tabloid scrutiny is often not very kind. He can be quite ruthless as an American. I don't really understand why, but it does. This whole war with the Monori of Montecito should have been met with a much firmer hand. It should have been nipped in the bud while they were still incubating. Now I fear it has become a full-fledged infection and could be deadly for the monarchy as a whole. Given the history of European rulers, we who lack royal blood have every right to expect respected monarchs to be strong now. The late Queen was a perfect example of strength under her iron fist was no joke. Charles probably should have had more respect for his father's advice. Monarchs must be tough. Philip's beloved wife steered a smooth ship because she knew when to step forward. She wasn't afraid to make those tough calls that some people might not favor people who respected her for that ability. For example, even though she was an animal lover, she loved her horses and dogs deeply. He didn't spend all his time playing with his pets. Instead, he knew he had to rub elbows with world leaders, and he understood that the world was run by brutal, rebellious types who couldn't be easily appeased. I think she really understood the lessons Neville Chamberlain taught Britain, but Charles often didn't listen to his father's clever advice on how to get stronger. If anyone understood the importance of strength and toughness, it was the late Prince Philip, who was such a gift to his wife and really everyone in the UK sees weak kings leading to broken kingdoms. If the substitution issue isn't resolved soon, other than taking the titles away from the Montecito Moners, there will be a lot of people calling for an end to the monarchy, and I understand what's going on in that situation. I understand that Harry is a spoiled brat who has always been soothed rather than having to bear the consequences of his behavior. And that explains the horrible, mean, hateful creature we've had to put up with for the past 3 years, but we can't afford to continue this spoiled, whiny little guy who keeps saying how hard it's been for a lot of people angry if Harry is not put in his place soon. I fear the royal family will end up facing the consequences for Harry. More and more people are calling to end the monarchy thanks to the complete farce of Harry and Meghan making a mockery of not only the royal family, but also the UK as a whole. Harry comes from unspeakable wealth and privilege, but at the same time he whines at a time of great hardship for so many. Once the truth comes out, Harry needs to go hide somewhere like I think he would deserve that. People do not want to see that smirk on his face anymore. Organs. They could have done so much good for the world, but no, they wanted to be celebrities, and when that didn't happen, they decided to play the victims and throw Harry's family under the bus in the process.